Keanu and I kick the idea around from time to time, but there's two things going on. It's like, A, do you really want to go back and do that again, you know, at the risk of it not being as good as it could be or should be, and muddling what I think are two very sweet movies that are just kind of there in time and haven't been sullied by, you know, sort of retrospective irony or cynicism or anything.
To be perfectly honest, folks, I don't want to be here ranting on this. I don't. But this film was heinous. It was such a heinous, disappointing, pathetic, sad sequel. And I am going to take no prisoners and open fire on it. Battle stations, let's go. So, Bill and Ted Face the Music is a 2020 sequel to Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Two of my all-time favorite high-concept comedy films. I love those films. I think they are on equal footing in terms of overall quality. The first film is one of the best stoner comedies of the 80s in terms of the overall vibe of things. And the second film is one of the best high-concept sci-fi fantasy films of the 90s. So I was looking forward to this. When I heard that this was announced and this was in development, I was excited because I'm a fan of the first two. Keanu and Alex were going to be coming back and reprising their roles as Bill and Ted. The original writers of the first two were going to be involved. And I thought that because all of those key pieces of the success of the franchise were going to be involved in this, I thought that because of that, this would be at least a fun movie, at least be a decent bit of entertainment. And what I got instead was a bunch of bogus bullshit. And that honestly is the biggest disappointment that I have experienced in years. If you like this film, that's totally fine. I have no problem with that. I think that's excellent, even though I think this movie is absolutely not excellent. I think it's a great thing that you're able to enjoy something that I don't particularly care for. But this film sucks, and it blows. So anyway, Bill and Ted Face the Music, if I could say the names. I'm just so... Forgive me if I falter at any point in this video, because I'm honestly pretty damn wound up and a little bit emotional about this. Because after 30 fucking years, this is what we get? 30 years! And we get a lazy retread of the same notes from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and Bogus Journey. And the new things, the new elements that are brought into the fold are beyond lame. So, 30 years, and this is what we get. Bill and Ted deserved better than whatever this was. You might as well have just not even made another Bill and Ted if this is the effort that you were going to put into it. There's a quote from this movie. There's a scene where Bill and Ted say something like, we have no idea what we're doing. And that honestly sums up this film. The individuals involved with this movie, even though they are the original writers of the first two films, they must have been wearing buckets on their heads of their own and had no fucking clue what they were doing writing this movie. It's a mishmash of really half-ass concepts and ideas, and it is honestly worse than the worst episode of the cartoon series, or even the worst episode of that lame live-action TV show that used to air on Fox one time back in the 90s and then was never heard from again. And that's incredibly surprising in a lot of ways for me. I thought that this was going to be at least maybe average because of the people who were involved, but I can't even say it's even an average movie or an average effort. Bill and Ted Face the Music? More like Bill and Ted Face Palm, or Bill and Ted Face the Pavement and fall flat on their fucking faces for 80-something minutes. So, this film was directed by Dean Parisot, and this is a guy who's a capable director. He directed Galaxy Quest, one of my favorite science fiction comedies of all time. I honestly could not believe it was the same guy. The direction in this is completely flat and lifeless, has no energy. It's shot behind a green screen most of the time, so I think that's a big part of it. It's not like the director really had a lot to work with, since the majority of the movie is shot behind a green screen anyway. Kind of hard to have emotion, pathos, have any kind of real atmosphere or mood when you're having to rely upon shitty, inauthentic CGI backgrounds and graphics for the majority of your movie. That being said, I don't think he got the best performances out of his cast either, especially not Keanu. Alex, he got a good performance out of. In fact, Alex Winter is like the only good thing about this movie for me. The only thing that isn't bogus or heinous or non-triumphant is Alex Winter. He's trying, he's got passion. I just wish he was in a much better movie. And like I said earlier, and I will say this time and time again throughout this video, Bill and Ted deserve better than this. And so did Alex Winter. But yeah, doesn't he get the best performances out of his actors? The two new co-leads and Bill and Ted's daughters, Theodora and Wilhelmina. Dean really got a D- in terms of delivering the best possible performance out of those two. And I'll get to that. I will get to the performances later. That's on my list of things to blast or punch their heads off like the evil robot Bill and Ted's in Bogus Journey. That's just one of many fucking flaws that this movie has. This film is chock full of flaws. For the most part, it's nothing but flaws. And fuck yous. So, Dean Parisot's direction, D-, try again. You do not pass. And then you get to the screenplay, which is an absolute shit fest. This script by the original writers of the first two, Chris Matheson and Ed Solomon, it is incredibly rushed. It's lazy. It's uninspired. It's insulting. There's numerous moments where this script is a direct slap in the face to Bogus Journey and to fans of Bogus Journey and to the overall franchise and to the beloved duo of Bill and Ted. And that is just frustrating beyond belief. Especially coming from these two stewards of the franchise. This screenplay is like these two treating an abandoned child like garbage after 30 years. That's really what this is. Bill and Ted as a franchise was their abandoned child. And then they come back 30 years later and try to be like, hey, we're back. We're going to be your dads. And we're going to treat you like shit. And shit on you. And write a screenplay that honestly seems like it was ghost written by fucking Denomalos. And what I mean by that is this screenplay is insidious in how it tears down the constructs of the franchise. It tears down Bill and Ted. It props up their daughters for no reason other than propaganda and fucking bullshit. And it doesn't even handle that properly. I'll get to that later. Most of the characters come across as petty and a bunch of fucking dickweeds. I mean, even the princesses come across the wrong way here. And Death. And then Bill and Ted's main adventure in this story is visiting their dickweed selves multiple times. And each time, it's more uninteresting and unfunny than the last. So in order to really systematically annihilate and absolutely destroy this screenplay, I'm going to have to spoil things. So spoilers, folks, if you haven't seen this movie. Because in order for me to really open fire, I'm going to have to spoil it. So let's just start off from the beginning. This story, the script by the two dudes who were responsible for creating Bill and Ted and their universe, starts off on the worst possible foot by making the argument that at the end of Bogus Journey, nothing of substance ever happened. The song failed. Wild Stallions failed. They had one failed album after another, and they're a bunch of fucking losers. Great! That's exactly what Bill and Ted fans waited 30 years to see in the opening of the new Bill and Ted movie, is that the iconic duo are all grown up, and after all these years, they're just a bunch of fucking losers. What is up with these franchises and these sequels lately wanting to deconstruct and destroy the integrity of their franchises? Why? Why would you openly want to do that? It doesn't even open up with narration from Bill and Ted. It opens up with narration from their daughters as if they're telling the story. As if it's their story. So really not the best start at all. And then it gets worse from there, and it gets depressing. You get the sequence where Bill and Ted are performing at Missy's wedding, where they did the joke again, where Missy married someone in the family, but this time around it's Deacon, Ted's brother, all grown up. And I'm like, this is getting to the point where it's just creepy and not even funny. Like, this is just disturbing now. And if you thought that was disturbing, then you get to Bill and Ted's set at the wedding, and they're making total asses out of themselves. They're total fucking lameoids and nerds and dweebs and fucking losers. With Ted playing fucking bagpipes and Bill doing throat singing. I mean, this is the kind of shit that old Bill and Ted from the first two movies would look at their future selves, and fucking laugh in their faces. They'd be like, you guys gotta be kidding me, right? Like, no way! You know, like really, they would just be like, this is bogus! I mean, come on. They just go around playing bagpipes and do. I'm like, the fuck is this shit? And then, after their daughters just fawn over them, and well, actually that happens later. I'll get to that. I'm sorry, I'm ahead of myself. After that, they go to couples therapy, with the princesses. Yeah, that's totally what we wanted to see. You know, I know it's a different concept and it's something we haven't seen before, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good idea. Bill and Ted in couples therapy. Bill and Ted face the couples therapist. Who the fuck wants to see that? I bet if you polled fans of the Bill and Ted franchise before you wrote this screenplay, I am pretty damn sure a high percentage of them would vote no on seeing Bill and Ted in couples therapy. So they're in couples therapy, and their relationship with the princesses are on the rocks because the princesses are petty and lame, like way too many of these characters are in this screenplay. They are doing this because Bill and Ted don't tell them they love them individually. They say, we love you. And because Ted or Bill don't say, I love you, their relationship is on the rocks. I'm supposed to sympathize with the princesses over this? And plus, we already had a whole thing with the relationship being in trouble because of evil robot Bill and Ted in Bogus Journey. Oh, wait. The writers don't like Bogus Journey, so they decided to just write the sequel and try to retcon it by pulling shit out of their rectums. I'm sorry, it stinks. Like ass. And it's asinine. It's so fucking asinine to pull this kind of bullshit. Try to pull the wool over my eyes and try to be like, that didn't happen. Bogus Journey is the real bogus sequel. We're the real sequel. Yeah, pull a Texas Chainsaw 3D. That's a great idea. That's something this franchise really needed. Is that kind of approach. I don't understand. Even if you don't like Bogus Journey, there are a lot of fans of this franchise who love that film and appreciate the work that you put into it a lot. In fact, they admire it. I'm one of them. That's one of the most creative, inventive, and original sequels I can think of. And this is not even remotely close to being as creative or unique. In fact, it can't even replicate even an ounce of the creativity from Bogus Journey, or even the first film. I really am the most disappointed in these writers. It really does seem like they did not even watch the first two before they wrote this script, and because there's a lot of things that don't make any sense in context, and there's a lot of this retconning shit because they don't like Bogus Journey. Well, too bad, so fucking sad. Suck it up. Stop being a fucking dipstick and a dickweed and just let it be. And then write your own film without having to take shots at Bogus Journey or trying to ignore the film as if it never even existed. Or trying to, and then on top of that, if you're trying to ignore it, why the hell are you copying it? If you don't like Bogus Journey, why are you copying the fucking movie? Why are you copying threads and plot points from Bogus Journey if you don't even like it? Why are you sending Bill and Ted to hell again if you don't like Bogus Journey? Why are you doing this fucking shit with the princesses and the relationship being on the rocks if you don't like Bogus Journey? Because that's what happened in Bogus Journey with evil Bill and Ted. Oh, you even have a robot that you send to kill Bill and Ted. Instead of two evil robots that are Bill and Ted, that look and sound exactly like Bill and Ted, but are evil and are demented and crazy in genuinely funny, hilarious ways. No, you just have this fucking robot who the biggest joke you have for this fucking thing is, my name is Dennis Caleb McCoy. Can I dance? Can you take your laser rifle and shove it up your robotic fucking ass and kill yourself a second time so I don't have to see you anymore and have to cringe at every time you fucking show up on the screen? God, I hate this movie. So what happens next after Bill and Ted's daughters fawn over them and say their song that they sung at the wedding reception was great, even though it was fucking beyond shitty and irritating? Then there's an egg from the future that shows up, and out of it walks the daughter of Rufus. When the fuck did Rufus have a daughter? So, alright, Rufus's daughter Kelly shows up, says there's something going on, we need your help, Bill and Ted, blah blah blah. They get into the egg, they go to the future, it looks like shit, looks like some asylum level fucking crappy CGI, that's not believable in any way, shape, or form. They meet the great leaders, which for some reason now in this movie are mostly women. Not that I have anything wrong with women. I don't. There was a woman in the Great Leaders, who was a part of the Great Leaders in the first film. But here, it's like the majority of the dais is all women. Where the fuck where did this come from? It feels incredibly forced. And then you have the Great Leader of the universe, who I like to call the queen bitch of the fucking universe, who is apparently Rufus's wife. Once again, the writers pulling shit out of their anuses, and she patronizes Bill and Ted. Oh, you played in front of 40 people, and that was only because it was $2 taco night. What is this shit? And she essentially tells Bill and Ted they haven't written the song to save the world yet. They need to do it within 70-something minutes. Otherwise, reality as we know it will be destroyed. Because the whole MacGuffin, not really MacGuffin, but the whole problem here in this movie is reality is folding in on itself. And so you have people from different time periods showing up in modern day and so on and so forth. And that's not necessarily a bad idea. That's one of the few okay, clever ideas that the writers came up with. But that's really about it when it comes to the clever ideas. And even that's not even really that great in comparison to the concepts from the first two films. Especially Bogus Journey, where they come up with a really brilliant idea of having Bill and Ted go through heaven and hell. And then also bringing in aliens and their technology. So Bill and Ted decide they're going to go into the phone booth. And speaking of the phone booth, there was a CGI hologram of Rufus in a scene earlier. So they decide they're going to get in the phone booth and they're going to go forward in time to meet their future selves and take the song from them. Because they still don't know what the song is. They don't know how to do it. So they go 2 years ahead in the future, and they meet one dickweed version of themselves who are still losers, who are depressed and angsty and angry because they lost the princesses, and then they get pissed off at past Bill and Ted, and they almost get in a fist fight. Then they go into... they go further into the future, and they think that they found the right timeline because Bill and Ted are hanging out at their mansion, but it's not their mansion. It's actually Dave Grohl's mansion. You have Dave Grohl in this too, and he doesn't do any music for this film. Like, where you have Dave Grohl? You don't even have him do anything other than show up in this cameo. And the song that they say is the one that's going to save the world is actually Dave Grohl's song. And they were trying to pull a fast one and pass Bill and Ted. And that's when you get the moment where Bill and Ted have that scene where they say, "We have no idea what we are doing." And that's because that's how they get away from their future selves in that particular sequence. Because they put fucking buckets on their heads and fall out a fucking window like a bunch of fucking fools. A bunch of fucking morons. I understand they were not the smartest bulbs in the room in the franchise, but they never did anything this fucking dumb and insipid and stupid. This is what I mean by this is Ghost written by fucking De Nomolos. He has Bill and Ted put buckets on their heads and say, "We have no idea what we're doing, dude." And has the whole thing where they lose their relationship with the princesses and go to couples therapy. The future is changed and retconned, so there are no more statues of Bill and Ted. There's no more video screens of Bill and Ted air guitaring. And the great leaders, a lot of them actually hate Bill and Ted's guts and don't like them, think they're losers, and even the great leader of the universe, the queen bitch of the universe, thinks that Bill and Ted should be dead. Oh, we have and they try to do this shit where Rufus was the only one that had the idea that Bill and Ted were going to save the universe. We're going to save reality. It was all Rufus's idea, and Rufus by himself. And that's fucking bogus bullshit that these writers pulled out of their fucking anuses again. None of that is in any of the other movies. They clearly did not watch the first two before they wrote this. They went off their hazy memories of what they wrote 30 years ago and called it a fucking day. And you know what? That's not fucking good enough. Try harder. Show some fucking more respect and appreciation for the franchise and these characters that you created, instead of this lazy fucking shit. So yeah, they try to do this shit where Rufus was the one that thought this was going to happen this way. We have another theory that it's Bill and Ted's death that unites the universe and stops reality from destroying itself. Bill and Ted fucking died already in Bogus Journey, and nothing, fixed itself at that moment. That's another fuck you by the writers to Bogus Journey. I think I've counted like 3 or fucking 4 already. I'm not even halfway through tearing down this shit pile, this shit stain, this shit stick of a fucking screenplay. So yeah, have that whole thing. Bill and Ted should be dead. So the queen bitch of the universe sends this fucking robot into the future to kill Bill and Ted. So Bill and Ted, then they go further into the future, meet their selves in prison, where they're all jacked up like they're on fucking Venom from Batman. They stole it from fucking Bane. And they're the biggest dickheads of them all. They almost beat their asses and steal the phone booth and send themselves into the past to deliver the song, which isn't even a song. It's just them chanting about being violent or some shit. And that's the running joke too. It's not a song. That's another thing about this script that sucks. It's not funny. It's not funny at all. The first 2 films, I could still quote lines of dialogue. I could still laugh at a lot of moments in those films. This screenplay is just a complete fucking black hole of humor. And charm. And heart for the most part. Except for the one scene that has any heart and has any semblance of the original charm from the first 2 films. Where Bill and Ted, after they escape from the robot who kills their dad because he's a fucking dumbass and sends their dad to hell because he shoots a laser beam at them before they go further into the future, but they manage to get away, but he kills their dad instead. They go further into the future to when Bill and Ted are old and they're in a retirement home. And there's a little bit of that heart there's a little bit of that soul from the first two films there. Should have had more of that. I don't think there was nearly enough of that in this movie. And I have to admit, the after credit scene where old Bill and old Ted, old Bill and old Ted are playing guitar with one another and they're jamming together one last time. That was a nice little moment. That was sweet. Doesn't save the film. It's still rancid. It's still rotten at its core. Because it's ghost written by De Nomolos. Bill and Ted are idiots who can't keep a relationship, who their adventure in time is lame and forgettable as hell, and all it involves is them visiting themselves in the future and various different versions that are different levels of being dickweeds, and then they finally meet their older selves and they've calmed down and they're not fucking assholes anymore. But why would they change so drastically if they still don't have the princesses? If that was the whole thing, they're mean and bitter and angry because they don't have the princesses. Why wouldn't they also just be mean, bitter, old, angry men as well? So they get the song from their older selves, and then the robot fucks up again and earlier and kills their daughters and the historical figures that they spent half the film getting in an unbelievably boring rendition, and honestly a shitty cover of Excellent Adventure. Instead of going in and getting historical figures for a history report, they get musical figures to form a band to help their dads. They get Jimi Hendrix, they get Louis Armstrong, they get Mozart instead of Beethoven, they get like some Asian flutist I've never heard of, and a Neanderthal woman who supposedly is the best drummer in the world, in the universe. And they don't even have them interact in the real world that much, because the real world throughout the movie is stuck in so much fucking chaos that you can't really have moments like that. You know what made Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure so fun and so unique is having these historical figures out of their element. You don't even get that in this movie. So yeah, the whole subplot with their daughters was lame. It was just lazy. It was just Excellent Adventure, but nowhere near as entertaining or as enthusiastic or interesting. And it doesn't help either that their daughters are written to be copies of Bill and Ted. And they're not good copies. They're crappy Xeroxes. Made with a broken Xerox machine. So, the robot kills Bill and Ted's daughters and the historical figures, and then Bill and Ted sacrifice themselves by getting in front of the robot's blast to shoot himself in the head, because he won't kill them because they have the song, but then they break the song, and then the robot still won't kill them, so they just jump in front of him as he decides to kill himself because he's having some kind of fucking mental breakdown. Then they go to hell, and it's green screen and shitty and looks nowhere near as cool as a Hell and Bogus Journey. They find their daughters, they go to meet Death, and it was fun to see William Sadler again playing Death, but you know what? Once the nostalgia wore off, I realized, this isn't nearly as good as Sadler's Death and Bogus Journey. I'll just watch Bogus Journey again. And it'll be a much better, much more satisfying experience. And I'll also get the nostalgia from that as well. And even Death, like I said earlier, he's written like a petty fucking asshole. Bill and Ted go to try to talk to Death and get him to bring them back, along with their daughters and everyone else, and try to mend the wounds from a broken relationship because they had a falling out. for whatever reason. And you know what that reason is? The reason they had a falling out is because Death wanted to take the Wild Stallion's name and was pissy and upset that Bill and Ted didn't like the fact that he was doing 40-minute fucking bass solos at concerts. So this sequence tries to trick you, tries to brainwash you into thinking that, oh, Bill and Ted were dicks. They were dickweeds to Death, and they should apologize. And then all they show you is that Death was the one being the dickweed the entire time. So when Bill and Ted say, dude, you tried to take the name from us, then you're on their side. It's Death who should be the one apologizing to Bill and Ted, not the other way around. So no, it doesn't work because Death decides to just buff them off because he wants to be a dickweed. And alright, so the daughters come in and they're the ones that have to convince Death to take them up and to listen to their dads. Once again, the daughters coming to save the day. This is a reoccurring theme in this shitty script. Not only do you have the daughters coming to save the day when it comes to Bill and Ted, but you also have the daughter coming to save the day when it comes to Rufus. Because Rufus passed away, no longer there, and his prophecy, everything that he thought of, everything he fought for, everything he risked his life for, total fucking bogus bullshit. Because none of it mattered in the end, for the most part. Some of it did, but his prophecy wasn't the real prophecy. And it was his daughter that ultimately was the one that sent the egg to the future and taught Bill and Ted's daughters, who were the real heroes, to use it to go back in time to get the musical figures so you can have that one aha light bulb moment for Bill and Ted where they put up the broken pieces of the flash drive that say Preston Logan in front of their daughters while they're standing in front of musical figures, so they can have that light bulb moment where they're like, oh, whoa, we need to go and use the infinity button and deliver all these instruments to people and have them jam and play the song at the same time, and that's what's going to save reality. Because you're the band, we're your backup. Ah! More proof that fucking Dinomalos ghost wrote this screenplay. Rufus, his pupil, his enemy, he wasn't the one that really did most of everything. It was his daughter. His daughter was the one that taught the real heroes, Preston and Logan, how to use the time machine to get the historical figures to make that moment happen for Bill and Ted. They're the ones that came up with the idea and the beats and so on and so forth of the song. Bill and Ted just came in and played guitar for a little bit in front of some shitty CGI. They weren't the triumphant ones. Their daughters were. Because Dinomalos doesn't like Bill and Ted. He thinks they're insipid idiots. So, here we go. Here's the insidious screenplay that paints Bill and Ted as even more of insipid idiots and puts them in the background of their own fucking franchise. Awesome. Station. Not excellent. Alright. So, the daughters convince Ted. They don't convince Ted. They convince Death to join the band again. And they go back up in a shitty swapmobile. Just bathed and swabbed in shitty CGI. And there's a running gag while they're in hell that, why is a robot here? That's your great humor, folks, in this movie. robots don't have souls. Ha ha ha! Was that fucking funny, man? And I am Dennis Caleb McCoy. Even fucking Bill and Ted were like, shut the fuck up. Oh my god. So they do the final concert at the end, which is somewhere in the middle of a fucking freeway. That's what MP46 is. You have that slap in the face line of dialogue. You're the band. Wear your backup. You know what they could have done? And honestly, what they should have done instead, if they want to have a moment like that where father and daughter bond? Instead of propping up the daughters above Bill and Ted, put them on an equal playing field. Put them on an equal stage. With a line like this. We're the band. And we're in this together. What's wrong with that? What is wrong with that? Why do you have to do this artificial bullshit propping up their daughters above them as if they're the ones that saved the fucking universe and reality as we know it? Why do you have to do that? It's not necessary. And even with that decision, they fuck it up. Because by the end of the film, they do this essentially they DJ this jam session with these musicians from the past, and Kid Cudi shows up, and then they do a little bit of a jam. They come up with a little bit of a note, a little bit of a riff. Bill and Ted get the light bulb moment to go in the phone booth and go to these different realities and different time periods and give everybody instruments and tell them what note to play. And in the finale, they're in the fucking background. You don't even see them at all in numerous scenes while Bill and Ted are front and center playing guitar with shitty CGI all around them. I've seen done better in fan films. I mean, even if you're going to go with that route, you put them in the background by the end of the fucking movie. So what was even the fucking point of that bullshit? Just another example of forced social justice warrior feminist propaganda shoved down your fucking throat. They didn't even have a moment where Bill and Ted and their daughters introduce each other. You know, it could have been a sweet, charming moment where you have, I am Bill S. Preston Esquire, and I am Billy Preston, and I am Ted Theodore Logan, and I am Theodora Logan, and together we are Wild Stallions. They didn't even do that. They didn't even say Wild Stallions at the end of the fucking movie. They just showed up, played the most forgettable fucking song in the universe that supposedly saves reality because everybody played, because the song didn't matter. It was the act of people playing it at once that did. Why didn't you just have a moment where everybody is Wild Stallions? Really? Then that would make sense that Wild Stallions is such a big deal in the future on an even bigger scale, because there was that moment where reality was tearing apart, and then Bill and Ted and their daughter showed up, and they had that moment where they made everybody Wild Stallions, and they all jammed together. You could have had a moment where a whole chorus of people throughout time and throughout the universe say, Wild Stallions! Nope. So they play the most forgettable song to save the universe that you will ever hear in your entire life. End credits. People dancing to a shitty pop song that sounds like the crap that you'd hear while you're on hold on the phone when you call somebody for customer service. Can I call some customer service? Can I reach out and touch somebody? And by touch somebody, reach out my fist and fucking punch the fucking writers in the face for writing such fucking disrespectful garbage? The next Bill and Ted movie should be Bill and Ted coming into this reality, going back in time, punching the writers in the dicks, grabbing the fucking scripts from the hard drives, deleting them, and then preventing this movie from ever being released. All right. I wasn't kidding when I meant heinous rants, and this might be a long one. It already is a long one. Buckle up. Still got more. There's still more to come. So okay, I've systematically destroyed and annihilated this screenplay. I pointed out all of the reasons why this doesn't work, and why it is full of so much bogus bullshit. It's not funny. It's not that unique or original. It doesn't even do things the right way when it's trying to do them. Too many characters are petty for no fucking reason. Now we get to the cast. I love Keanu Reeves, but he played Ted as if he had just woken up out of a cryogenic coma. You could tell that he was not really capable of channeling that Ted mode anymore. He's been in such a serious actor mode for so long, he just couldn't do it. He either played him like Ted in a cryogenic coma, or like Ted's dad, Captain Logan, when he's possessed by Ted's spirit in Bogus Journey. It was just inauthentic, and you could tell that Keanu was just trying to be Ted, and it was just really rough to watch. Alex Winter, though, channeled Bill well. He did a really good job. I'm not going to say anything negative about Alex. Then you had Kristen Schaal, who plays Kelly. This character was lame. Not even remotely cool. I don't buy that she's Rufus's daughter. I really don't. Rufus was a cool guy. I don't buy that she's his daughter. I don't. And doesn't help either that Kristen Schaal's performance was nails on a chalkboard most of the time. And most of the movie, she's just bitching to her mom on her phone. Samara Weaving, Brigette Lundy-Paine. I like Samara Weaving. She was great in Ready or Not. She was not great. She was pretty fucking heinous here as Bill. Awkward. I mean, as Billy, she's trying to channel Bill and she can't do it. Not working. And then you have Brigette Lundy-Paine trying to channel Ted, and she walks around like she's got shit in her pants and acts like she's robot Ted from fucking Bogus Journey, the good one. Walking around like this. I'm Ted. I'm Teddy. I'm T. What's up, B? Whoa. And the only fucking difference that these characters have in terms of their characterization and compared to their dads is that they're more music nerds than their dads are. That's the only difference. They act the same. They're essentially the same characters. And they are pale imitations of Bill and Ted. So anytime they show up, it's like, go away. Can we get more scenes with Bill and Ted and death? Why don't we just have a sequel? There was an idea a friend of mine came up with where aliens, they see the success of Bill and Ted and Wild Stallions after the first two films and decide that they want to recruit them to play music for them and for other alien species. You could tie in Station into it. Maybe Station's kind is the ones that contact them. But then there's this other group of aliens. This is my idea. I'm bringing this one in. There's this other group of aliens that don't like rock music. They hate heavy metal. And so they want to kill Bill and Ted. And they also want to kill the aliens that like rock music. So it's up to Bill and Ted to save this race of aliens. Maybe it's Station's race. Maybe it's Station's race plus other races. Maybe it's like a bunch of refugees or something. We've got to save them from these evil aliens that don't like heavy metal, and you could have sequences where maybe you'd even get involved that musician from the 23rd century, that future chick that was in Bogus Journey. I thought she had a really cool look and would have been kind of fun to see her again, or see something more with that character. And then you can have a female character. She can be strong, and she doesn't have to try to usurp Bill and Ted. You don't have to do this shit where you prop her up above Bill and Ted. She can be a part of the team, and they could be on equal footing. And then I have a concept where they would use guitars or other things, or maybe even air guitar, with the help of alien technology, to make all these loud, guitar noises to defeat the aliens in the end. It's kind of silly, but that's what Bill and Ted is. I think that's something that's definitely in Bill and Ted's wheelhouse, is that kind of concept. But no, instead you get this, which is just a lazy retread and slap in the face to the first two films. Then we get to the other cast members. Oh, before I finish talking about the daughters and the performances, I want to mention this. They have zero chemistry. They have no chemistry with one another. And it doesn't feel genuine or authentic. They all feel like they're just trying too hard to be Bill and Ted, but the female versions. And they just don't have that natural chemistry that Bill and Ted, that Keanu and Alex have. And some scenes still had in this movie. Which is why I wish there were more scenes with them, so that maybe they could kind of build up a little bit more. Maybe if Keanu had more scenes and had a better screenplay and something more to work with, then maybe he could have delivered a better performance. So William Sadler is a Grim Reaper, fun seeing death again, but he's barely in the movie. He's in it for like 5 minutes, and most of his screen time is him being a petty fucking dickweed. Anthony Carrigan as Dennis Caleb McCoy was fucking annoying, wasn't funny. I am Dennis Caleb McCoy. Aaron Hayes as Princess Elizabeth, Jana Mays as Princess Joanna. Why did they not get the original actresses did they decline to play the princesses? Did they even ask them to come back? They're all right, but they're not given a lot to do, and they're also painted in a pretty shitty light for most of the movie as being petty characters. Hal Landon comes back as Captain Logan. Just kind of rehashes the same sort of stuff, but at least has a moment where he believes Ted. Beck Bennett is in this as Officer Deacon Logan, Ted's younger brother growing up. I hate Beck Bennett. I don't like this guy. He's fake as fuck. He's not authentic in any way whatsoever. I honestly don't understand why he's getting roles or much of a career. I've seen his skits on SNL. He sucks in those skits, and he sucks here. Amy Stotch is back as Missy. Didn't have a whole lot to do. Holland Taylor plays the queen bitch of the universe, which this is even quoted here. This is from the official press. The most powerful person in the universe is this fucking queen bitch of the universe we've never fucking heard of until this movie, who is essentially the antagonist of the fucking film. Because she's the one that sends the fucking robot that fucks everything up. She's the one that talks down to Bill and Ted and shit. She's honestly, in a lot of ways, the film's antagonist. And she's the most powerful person in the universe. Jillian Bell plays the therapist in a sleepwalking role. I really thought Jillian Bell was going to go on to some really great things after 22 Jump Street. And she's just been doing the same fucking shit in every fucking movie now. It's the same shit. I'm tired of it already. She plays the same character in every single movie. And I guess some guy, some member of fucking Arcade Fire was one of the great leaders that you saw like in the far corner somewhere in one scene, because the film made sure to show you that the majority of the great leaders are women. They have snatches, they have tits, and they're better than us. Dudes. They're the most powerful people in the universe. That's really, honestly, that's all I have to say about the cast. The score by Mark Isham, he's done some really impressive scores throughout his career. This is not one of them. This is not triumphant. It's not impressive. It's forgettable. I don't even remember a single note. The music, Bill and Ted films have always had some really great soundtracks. The first film had one killer song after another. Extremes, Play With Me, Two Heads Are Better Than One, In Time, I Can't Break Away. They just have so many great songs in that soundtrack, and the score was pretty decent as well. Then you have Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, which has a great score, and then a pretty solid soundtrack as well. God Gave Rock and Roll to You, and to be honest, I refuse to believe that the song that saves the universe in reality is the forgettable instrumental track at the end of this movie, and not the collaboration of Steve Vai and Kiss that was featured at the end of Bogus Journey. I refuse to fucking believe it. I'm sorry, I'm not believing it, because it's more bogus bullshit. Just like most of this soundtrack is. The song at the end credits sucks. The other songs they use in the film, which I don't think they really used any other songs, also suck. Cinematography by Shelley Johnson. Everything looks like it's been filtered to death, and there's too much fucking white balance. Things look like they're smoothed out to the point where it's absolutely absurd and ridiculous in more than one occasion. If you look at the poster, that's honestly how the film looks. And that's not good. That's pretty fucking heinous. The editing by Don Zimmerman, it's fine. Editing is the least of this film's problems. And it's 91 minutes, but it feels like 191 because I'm not entertained or enthralled by anything in this movie. I'm not into Bill and Ted's Adventure, where they visit their dickweed selves over and over again. I'm not interested in the Daughter's Adventure, where they go in and do some lame half-ass version of Excellent Adventure, but replace the other historical figures with specifically musical figures. I'm not interested in the really forced, heavy-handed propaganda bullshit where the daughters are more important. I'm not interested in that fucking shit either, or that Bill and Ted are a bunch of fucking losers. Should have just they should have just took the money they spent on this movie, which was $25 million, by the way, and it doesn't look like it cost that much. You know, the first film cost $6.5 million, and the second movie cost $20 million. This cost $25 million. It was only... The first two films combined were only like $1.5 million more expensive. And this film has visual effects that look cheaper and faker than effects from 1988 or 1991. Where did the money go? Because it definitely does not look like this film cost $25 million at all. Should have just spent that $25 million and put it into development for a Bill and Ted video game that doesn't suck. Yeah, do a Bill and Ted video game. Have Keanu and Alex do the voices. Have William Sadler voice Death. You can play Bill or Ted or Death as playable characters. You have levels where they go into space and do that space adventure I was talking about with Station. You have a level where they go to hell again. You can even have the daughters involved if you want to. You can have playable levels where you go into history in the phone booth and collect historical figures and musical figures and other people throughout history. And then you don't have to worry about having inauthentic, cheap-looking effects because you can do more CGI and do more stuff with a video game for a lot less money than making a film. And then you have a team of developers who would work on it, and you don't even necessarily have to have the original writers involved. And honestly, if that was the case, they did go a video game route. I don't want them involved because they have no respect for Bogus Journey whatsoever. They probably just insert multiple middle fingers to the movie in the video game script. I just can't believe that after 30 years, this is the best that Bill and Ted has to offer. It's just fucking, it's a bummer, man. It's bogus, it's heinous, and it's most non-triumphant. I feel like Bill at the end, not at the end, but in that one scene in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure where he thinks the medieval guy killed Dad, I'd be like, I feel like that about the writers who wrote the original films. You killed Bill and Ted, you medieval dickweeds. That's really how I feel about this fucking movie, man. Fuck. I don't know what else to say about Bill and Ted Face the Music. I have ranted about it for over an hour. I hope you were able to sit through it and find it somewhat entertaining or enjoyable. Forgive me for taking so long, but I had so many things that I wanted to say about this movie. It is absolutely, without a doubt, one of the most disappointing films I've seen in years. It is easily the worst film that I've seen in 2020. And man, I'm a huge fan of these guys, these dudes. And this was just sad and depressing and just bogus. But if you like it, to each their own. And if you still want to check it out, please do. You may very well like it a lot more than I do. And if that is the case, I got no problem with that. But I'm beat. I got nothing left to say. And thanks for watching my rant on Bill and Ted Face the Music. And as always, I'll see you later. See ya.